Jonathan, while you join us on stage, and as we set up, let's remind everyone, so for your session, we've organized a poll, haven't we?
Yep, we have. Sorry, that's really loud, isn't it? We wanted to get your opinion as part of this session. So actually, we've organized a poll. Ali, it's on the app. You'll need the app to access the poll. So if you could just quickly download the app.
So maybe with a quick show of hands, how many folks here have the event app on their phones right now? OK, so perfect. So if, in case you don't, all you have to do is search the Bench Events app on your store, download the app, and access it using the registered email address that you've used for this event. Then find this session. How can hospitality leaders attract, retain, and motivate the best people? Find the session and tap on that session. Then you'll see there's a little poll button at the bottom of where the session appears. And while the panelists come on the stage, if you can all be ready with that.
That would be great.
Right?
Yeah,
and then we'll do the poll.
Thank you very much.
Thank you.
Thanks, Ali. So just a quick one. That question is actually not about you. It's about what you think motivates and retains and attracts your team members to stay. And if you don't have a direct team, then it would be for yourself. So we'll have a look at that. So first of all, I'd like to welcome on stage Giuseppina Bavasso. So big round of applause, please.
Thank you very much. Hi, Jonathan.
Giuseppina is Vice President of Human Resources for EMEA for Hyatt International. So welcome, Giuseppina. Thank you.
Thank you very much.
And we have Razvan Pirjol. He's Chief Business Development Officer for winsedswiss. Thank you very much, everybody.
Thank you, Jonathan.
So whilst you're just doing that poll, and the reason I have my phone is actually we can't display the results on the screen, but once you've submitted, you'll get the results on your phone. So you'll be able to see the results, I'll be able to see the results, and then hopefully it kind of works. So let's just see if that's working. There we go. OK, so it's kind of coming through at the moment. So just a little bit of context for this. So they labeled kind of 2020, 2021 as the Great Resignation. 2022 onwards is like the Great Retention. And it's been mentioned several times over the last couple of days that the biggest challenge we have is around staffing and also the fact that we have a situation in the industry with regards to trust. And how do we get that trust back? Now, we realize this is a massive topic, and we've got about 27 minutes to cover this topic, so we can't do that. So what we realized is that actually, and coming from Glion, where we have a specialization focused on development and asset management, is that we have about, over the last few years, about 100 plus industry professionals. And the students really look up to you, all of you in the room and beyond as leaders within the sector. So that's why we've positioned it as, we think that you guys have the opportunity to create these micro-cultural changes that could influence your teams and then influence the organization beyond. Okay, so we've got to start somewhere. We believe it's a great place to start as leaders, which you all are. So that's going to be the pretext for the discussion today. So whilst we give literally 2 minutes to introduce, Giuseppina, would you just like to introduce yourself to the audience, and then Razvan as well, while I just check the results? Is that OK?
With pleasure. Thank you very much, Jonathan. So very happy to be here. For those who attended the run this morning, I did survive. So I'm very happy to be here and speaking to you. My name is Giuseppina Bavasso. I work for Hyatt International. We are located in Zurich with the regional office based right next to the airport of Zurich. In my role as Regional Vice President, Human Resources, I really have two big tasks. On one hand, I support pre-opening hotels. So we do everything that is related to pre-opening hotels, staffing guides, pre-opening budgets, recruitment of first staff members, and then everything HR related to operational hotels. We do receive a lot of initiatives and guidance from our headquarters in Chicago, and our role is also to translate it culturally across the region. So this is what my role is about.
Thank you very much, Giuseppina.
Thank you.
Thank you. Razvan, a little bit of background about yourself. You've not just in education, but you've also been a leader as many, well, you are still a leader, but also historically.
Well, no. I just realized that I'm entering my 31st year of hospitality, which I'm not sure it's a reason of pride or rather of worries. I'm Razvan, I'm Romanian Swiss. I've been active in this industry for about 30 years. Had the chance to be in Glion for quite a bit, about 15 years. I was a director in Glion some time ago, and then I moved into the entrepreneurship, hotels, restaurants, before joining my mother country, Romania, a couple of years ago, where basically I did the same, education, hotel management, hotel openings, and so on. There was a moment in my life which I don't regret, but it was a funny moment because I was named Minister of Tourism, Foreign Trade and Foreign Investments in the glorious year, December 2019. And then I got all the pandemic period, full period as a tourist minister until last year, but great experience. And ever since, with a couple of Romanian Swiss like me, friends, we considered that there is a huge need to improve and to change the way we see education towards hospitality. So we opened Lausanne and AHL Lausanne franchise in Romania, Serbia, and Cyprus. And we are operating schools and consultancy services for the hospitality industry. Voila.
Thank you very much, Razvan. So I'd like to make this session interactive as well. So if you've got questions as we go along, please jump in. So thank you for the results. What we have, number one, job involvement, engagement, and recognition. Number two, psychological safety, which is team members feel safe and secure, including openness to diverse perspectives. And number three is compensation and perks. Now that's your responses about what you think is most important for your team members. So actually what we did, we put the same survey out on LinkedIn to get a much wider net yesterday. So we've had 24 hours of running this survey. And actually, two of the items came back. So we could say this is kind of a comparison of what maybe your team members actually think. Actually, the first is psychological safety. So that came back first. Second was the job involvement and engagement. And then third was education, training, and personal development. So actually, given we've got the overlap on, there we go, perfect, wonderful. So we managed to get it up as well. So actually, what I'd like to start with, because we'll go to job involvement and engagement, but what I'd like to start with is a more challenging topic, which is around psychological safety, but it's something that you can actually influence directly as leaders. And actually, this is not just coming randomly from us. All these different attributes have been backed up by research, and Google and many other companies have identified this as one of the most important things around motivation and retention. So Giuseppina, I'd like you to just kind of expand on what psychological safety is and what leaders can do in order to create that right kind of environment for their teams.
Thank you very much. Yeah, it's a very interesting concept, and let me maybe just summarize a little bit how this concept was coined and where it comes from. You might have heard from an author, her name is EAME Edmondson. She was working on a PhD in a hospital, and her hypothesis was that successful teams were the ones that also made least mistakes. There is a whole concept about what a successful team is. I won't go into that detail, but what she found out then when she was doing this research in the hospital, she found out that the best teams were those that made most mistakes, most errors in their jobs. So this was counterintuitive to her hypothesis, and she then dig deeper and found out that it's not that the successful teams made more mistakes, they spoke more openly about those. And so it was a completely shift in how we define successful teams and what teamwork is all about, etc. And then Google, a few years later, they did another research, a project called Aristotele, where they were also trying to find out which teams show which characteristics to make them successful. And again, this notion of psychological safety is what came up. And what it is about is really to create an environment where people have a voice, they can speak up, they can ask questions, they can criticize what is going on, they can raise their hand and say, why are we doing this like this, and not because it has been done like this forever. And so we really have data and survey to really show that this is a super important concept for good teams. And we know good teams will have higher engagement will have longer retention, and this is why this has become a topic today. So what we have done, we have, as a best practice example, right, how we put this into practice at Hyatt, we have 2 different workshops that have psychological safety as a topic within these workshops. One is about resilience. How do we support our colleagues to be more resilient, especially after what has happened in the past 2-3 years? So there we talk about this concept of psychological safety. And another one that is about leading inclusively, which is on diversity and inclusion, and how do we make sure that all our employees feel part of the company. And so we really try to put this into out there and really make it available to employees and to leaders, especially, to create those circumstances where this psychological safety will flourish then.
Yeah, wonderful. Thank you, Giuseppina. I'd also like to ask if anybody has any, best practice examples that they're doing within their teams. Please feel free to raise your hand, share it. Also, if you've got any questions as we go along, specifically to this particular attribute, please raise your hand. Does anybody have anything that they would like to share at this particular point? No? Okay. All right. I mean, Simon Sinek, obviously, he kind of summarizes these things in very nice sound bites, and he talks about falling rather than failing and being safe to fall. And we overuse the word failing too much in our organizations and in our teams and in our cultures. And actually, if we look at it as falling, which is what we do all the time when we're developing and when we're older, and then it doesn't sound so dramatic, and actually allows us that kind of psychological safety to continue.
If I may add just one thing, sorry, that I remembered now. During this pandemic years, we also found out which behaviors are really important to get through this crisis. And one of the things was experimentation, which goes a little bit into your direction. People feeling free and okay to experiment, because if you experiment, you usually also get to fall eventually, right? And it's about this making it relevant to experiment and then to really learn from it and get up again.
Absolutely. So, and to be fair, it ties back with the previous sessions around innovation and these cultures of innovation. If we want to kind of transform the industry, we have to allow these kind of safe environments to exist. I'm going to bring you in, Razvan, on education, because the third one was around education, personal development, and obviously I've got kind of one foot in education and one foot on the industry side, and trying to bring those two together. But one of the at least focuses of I think many educational establishments over many years has been around transferable skills, because we really don't know about the jobs of tomorrow. I mean, there's huge speculation, but ultimately we want people to be able to adapt very fast to the new environments and pick up things very quickly. But what is your view of good examples around education, around how leaders can prepare their teams around education, and also how we can also prepare for the next generation for the hospitality industry, so that we can kind of regain that trust that was mentioned yesterday by Dimitris, that has potentially been broken in the industry?
Well, I prepared a 2-hour speech for this, but I see we have another 7 minutes, 10 minutes eventually. I'm very happy every time I'm given the chance to speak about education, and I'm really thankful to Jonathan that he allowed this at an investment forum. Let me make a few statements. First of all, very happy to be here because today it's the International Day of Tourism, 27th of September, so aren't we lucky to be here all together and celebrate this day. Close by to Acropolis, Wiseness Temple. The industry of hospitality is an industry of peace, first of all. And when I speak about peace, it's that everything which is war in all kind of terms, whether it's pandemic or conflicts, is really stopping it and blocking it immediately. Secondly, it is an industry with people and for people. And I think that this is something that made us think while creating this new kind of educational concept with the Lausanne, I would say, origins and so on, is to adapt to what is happening today. And in fact, what is happening today didn't start today. It started some time ago. Probably the pandemic situation just boosted out digitalization and eventually the talent crisis or manpower crisis that we're facing within the hospitality industry today. We should bear in mind that for a couple of years already, we realized that CEOs of large hotel companies are no longer hoteliers. They are coming from the world business, in fact. On the other hand, less than the half of graduates from the hospitality schools are joining the world business and are very well welcomed within every service-oriented industry. So we realized, together with what Harold was saying the other day, I think yesterday morning we had a very fine presentation about the client of the future, which is already existing today, that in fact, even our service providers, our workers in the hotels, and also our students did change a lot in this last years. And like Einstein said, we cannot solve problems with the same level of thinking which created them. So what we're trying to do at an educational level, and we completely depend on you, because at the end of the day, the key performance indicator of a school is the outcome, the employability of this alumni within the industry. So what we're definitely trying to do is to adapt ourselves, like you guys are doing in the hotels. We're trying to be as flexible as possible. We realized, for example, that young people today do learn much easier on an individual basis and are gathering information from all kinds of sources. So probably school will be that one which will enable them to apply and to have the practical applications of what they learned on themselves or online with the schools. I don't believe that vocational education will disappear because hotels will still need to have production, let's say in this way. But I'm convinced that skills for the future, which are already very, very valuable, are the soft skills. And probably everything which is related to clients and companies focusing on clients will need skilled persons in human contact and soft skills.
Okay. Great, Razvan. I think just to kind of bring that, obviously education is very much, we know that the future is around about customization and individualization of education. We've got 3 specializations at Glion. But I think if we take this forward for leaders as well, it's around personalization, the opportunity for their individual members of their team to customize their own personal development as they go forward as well, rather than a kind of a policy kind of driven approach to training and development. What do you think, Giuseppina?
Yeah, I completely agree. You know, to reframe your quote, what got us here will not get us to the next destination. So I think we really have to rethink that. And in learning and development, we still have that top-down view sometimes, where we offer trainings, we organize classroom sessions, we tell our employees, first you do the online course and then you come to the session. I think this really needs to be rethought and make it really as part of the DNA of each company, because I think that's what the next generation is going to look for.
Yeah, absolutely. And if we go to job recognition, and reward, which is obviously the one that came out here first and second in the wider survey. What can leaders do for their teams around this? Because we have annual reviews, quarter reviews, biannual reviews, performance feedback, 360 feedback, all of these kind of things. But it's not about that. It's about being fully involved and engaged in the business, in the decision-making, in the recognition. So maybe, can you talk to that, Giuseppina and Razvan, around how that leaders can take that and adopt that in terms of best practices? And everybody has any examples in the room as well, that would be fantastic. Thank you.
Well, what we see is that authenticity is really important, right? So it's not about the cycles where you have goal setting beginning of the year, then a mid-year review, etc. So we have check-in conversations that we invite our leaders to do with their teams, which are on a more regular basis, shorter times. You don't have to put aside an entire hour. It's not a compliance exercise, right? But it's something that is constant. And we believe if it's done authentically, people will feel that. And our purpose is based around the notion of care. If we do that with a caring mindset, if we do that with authenticity and with a positive intention, I think this is what really makes the difference, because people don't want to see it as a compliance exercise, but it has to be really from genuine point that this is coming from. This is, personally, I really believe in that.
Yeah, I think that makes sense. And Razvan, yesterday there was the generation, you were talking about Generation Alpha, that literally, they're going to require seconds to make a decision, but they'll also want instantaneous feedback as well. So we've got a whole generation coming through that is going to need that feedback loop as fast as they're doing and delivering and executing the work that needs to be done. They're going to need this recognition and reward almost simultaneously, so I'm just wondering how that, because we're seeing that in education, people are taking shorter courses, certifications, customizing their own education, getting feedback straight away. They've achieved this, they've achieved that. We break up, our courses now into, lots of different individual modules. They get feedback after each module. So
absolutely. Well, you see, probably change was always the only constant in our lives. I think what changed dramatically in this last years is the speed. And we can see this also with the young generations. It looks like they don't give time to time any longer. So they are looking for immediate results. So one of the solutions we are trying to develop is the idea of micro skills, and try and develop, in a short period of time, certain skills that they can apply immediately, and eventually they will come back down and complete with other skills and complete a whole program. I think yesterday it was mentioned something between 5 and 10 seconds decision takers, right? So this is the same with education, long-term education models and programs. Telling them that if they will stay 5 years in a position, a hotel will bring them up to wherever and so on, is no longer the case. So we're trying to give them as much flexibility as possible, giving them credits for what they do in order to make them come eventually if they need more information. Okay. But it is a revolution. You can imagine if you guys in the business are confused, imagine how confused we are in the educational business, because it is a whole change of mentality. We need ourselves to understand, first of all, what we need and how we would like to have them. Imagine then that we need the teachers, the trainers, the educators to adapt themselves to a completely new model of people perceiving the information.
Okay, thank you very much, Razvan. I'm just going to kind of summarize. We're out of time, but this obviously people is, part of the 3 Ps around people, planet, and profit. And I think if we want to have a sustainable industry going forward, we really need to focus on that. 3 takeaways for you as leaders. I would say it's open, honest, and trust-based communication. I would say customizing the learning and development programs for each of your team member. And the last one is instantaneous feedback and reward and recognition on an ongoing basis. And I think if you do that immediately, as soon as you go back, it will make a significant change to your team, your culture within your micro-organization, and hopefully other people start saying, well, what are you guys doing? Let's do that too. And then we can start from there and start changing the industry. We've got to start somewhere, right?
Absolutely.
And we tried to do it in 30 minutes. So any questions before we go? Oh, we have a question.
How do you see technology impacting work and labor relations and relations with companies?
How do we see
I
technology?
think this is one of the major changes, and technology and digitalization is the most disruptive change in our lives. So what we're trying to prepare in our future generations of, well, leaders, but before students and so on, is to create a good balance between technology and the human in a human being. I mean, we're trying to teach them how to use the machines and not to be used by the machines. And definitely, this will be probably the best balance within the hospitality, humans using as much as technology possible.
Maybe.
But this is for sure it's not the future, it's already happening.
Maybe I add to that just to, if you think about the three takeaways, if you take about customizing education, that can easily be done through technology. If you look at instantaneous feedback, that can be enabled by technology. And if you talk about open communication platforms, that can also be enabled. So I see it as we can use the technology in the way that we can actually then enable those three takeaways to kind of be driven forward. And those are only three, and we obviously...
But probably also for the everyday operations. Yeah.
Yes. Any other questions? Okay. I would like to thank Razvan, Pirjol.
Thank you.
Okay, thank you very much. And Giuseppina, Bavasso, thank you very much as well. Thank you, everybody here. Thank you for your time. And that's it. Over to Ali. Thank you very much.
Thank you.